Russian President Vladimir Putin has been caught violating the Syrian ceasefire agreement that Russia entered into just a few weeks ago. Now, UN Ambassador Nikki Haley has delivered a rude awakening on behalf of President Donald Trump, and you don't want to miss it. According to Daily Caller, UN Ambassador Nikki Haley hammered Russian President Vladimir Putin and his country on Monday, March 12, 2018, for failing to adhere to the Syrian ceasefire agreement, which they intentionally left loopholes in. Haley decided enough was enough and gave Russia a brutal ultimatum to think about. Reuters reports that Haley presented a new draft resolution after accusing Russia of exploiting loopholes in the original ceasefire agreement to continue carrying out attacks on Syrian civilian targets. Speaking before the UN, Haley demanded a new 30-day ceasefire in Syria's rebel enclave of Eastern Ghouta. Haley reportedly told the council that a ceasefire agreement adopted 2 weeks prior has failed as reports came in of civilian casualties the Syrian government caused with backing from Russia. 16 days ago, we sat around the negotiating table with our Security Council colleagues and we agreed to a 30-day ceasefire in the brutal bombardment of civilians in Syria, Haley said. The negotiations were long and difficult. Every minute we delayed meant more innocent people were killed. But the Russian delegation stalled and drew out the talks. They had conditions they insisted on before they would allow the killing to stop. The United States was reluctant to accept those conditions. But in order to stop the killing in Syria, we accepted them, she continued. We attempted to work with Russia, in good faith, to end the violence in Syria. As a result, 16 days ago, we came to an agreement. Russia cast its vote in favor of the agreement, and with that vote, Russia promised its support for a 30-day ceasefire, as did the rest of the members of the Security Council, Haley furthered. With that vote, Russia said that it too wanted to create the conditions for food and medicine to reach starving Syrian families. With that vote, Russia told us it would use its influence with the Syrian regime to silence the guns in Syria, Haley added before she went on to explain that Russia vowed to honor the ceasefire they voted to demand. The ambassador added that Russia voted to stop the killing in Syria. Then, Haley let loose. Today, we see their actions don't match those commitments as bombs continued dropping on the children of Eastern Ghouta. Today, we must ask if Russia can no longer influence the Assad regime to stop the horrific destruction of hospitals, medical clinics, and ambulances, to stop dropping chemical weapons on villages. Has the situation in Syria reversed and Russia is now the tool of Assad? Haley asked. Or worse, Iran, she added. We must ask these questions because we know the Russians themselves have continued their own bombing. In the first 4 days following the ceasefire, Russian military aircraft conducted at least 20 daily bombing missions in Damascus and Eastern Ghouta. The Russians negotiated the wording of the ceasefire, down to the commas and the periods. They voted for the ceasefire, and they immediately disregarded it, Haley exclaimed. After pointing out that over 500 innocent Syrian civilians have lost their lives since the ceasefire began, Haley told the council that a new 30-day ceasefire must be agreed to, or the United States may act alone. It is not the path we prefer, but it is a path we have demonstrated we will take, and we are prepared to take again, Haley told the 15-member Security Council. When the international community consistently fails to act, there are times when states are compelled to take their own action, she declared. We have drafted a new ceasefire resolution that provides no room for evasion, Haley added. The situation of the civilians in Eastern Ghouta is dire. And the United States is acting, she concluded, delivering a promise to Russia and the Security Council that the United States is about to start dishing out some needed punishment if Syria and Russia do not stop killing innocent civilians. It's clear that many Americans would like to see our military stand down and take a position of non-engagement in Syria, but we can now see the destructive consequences of that kind of thinking from what happened when former President Barack Obama pulled our military out of Iraq, leaving a power vacuum that gave rise to ISIS. Our president and the ambassador know that Russia only responds to strength, and that is exactly what our country shows with Haley at the negotiation table.